Hello and welcome to RGU Talk, the official podcast of Robert Gordon University. I'm your host, Johnny Milne, and with me this week is an inspiring woman whose achievements in health promotion and social care recently led her to being awarded an honorary degree from RGU. I'm delighted to welcome Edel Harris to the show. Edel, thank you so much for coming in today.
You're very welcome.
Now, as I mentioned, the university have recently awarded you an honorary doctorate of business administration. Is that right?
That's correct.
And it was to coincide with International Women's Day. How did that feel to get that phone call in the first place?
I was surprised and genuinely humbled that my name should even appear in a conversation about who should receive such an award on International Women's Day. But I was absolutely delighted. Robert Gordon University is a university that's held in high esteem locally and in Scotland and the rest of the UK. So to be aside those other two amazing and inspiring women was just wonderful. So yes, I was a bit surprised when I got the call, but really honoured and very flattered.
Well, clearly you're a huge role model for women of all ages and have been throughout your career. Even all the way back to, I was looking at your career and you started with the Metropolitan Police during a time when it would have been a predominantly male environment. So that can't have been easy, I imagine.
Now, I left school at 17 and joined the police cadets in London and spent 11 mostly happy and really interesting years working in the Metropolitan Police. But yes, this was the very early 1980s, a very male-dominated profession. And I think, as I said during my speech when I received the honorary degree, I could tell quite a few stories, which we probably haven't got time for. But I'm glad things have changed. And certainly the police force that I recognise today is a very, very different place for women to work in. But yes, it was challenging at times, the way that you were treated or sometimes ignored because you were a female police officer. It was much more difficult to advance your career in the same way as the men at the time.
And you moved from working in the police to health and social care. Why such a big change at the time? What was it that attracted you to the NHS?
Well, the reason I left the police force was because I had a son that was born with a disability. And at that time, there was no such thing within the police force of working part-time or flexi-working or job share. And of course, when you're in a role that involves shift work, having a child and juggling your work requirements is hard enough. But when you have a child with a disability, it becomes even more difficult. So we took a decision at that time as a family that it was best for me to give up work. So I wanted to do a degree. I'd regretted not having the opportunity to go to university when I left school. And because I had a particular interest now in disability because of my son's condition, I decided to do an open university degree in health and social care. And that led me to my next job.
And you'd go on, after working in the NHS for a number of years, you'd go on in 2008 to become Chief Executive of Cornerstone. For anyone who might be unaware, can you tell us a little about what it is Cornerstone does?
Yes, of course. I had one job in between, the NHS and Cornerstone, and I wouldn't want to miss them out. I was the Deputy CEO of Aberdeen Foyer, which is a really amazing third sector organisation based here in the city, and I learnt a lot while I was there. Cornerstone is one of the largest providers of social care services in Scotland. We provide care and support in communities as far south as the Scottish borders and up to Moray in the Highlands. And our charitable purpose is to enable the people we support to live a valued life, a life that they choose. And we work with over 3,000 children, adults and families who are affected in some way, either by disability or by another support need. Increasingly, we're working with older people with dementia, supporting some people coming out of prison, working with people with mental health problems. So a real wide range of clients. But as I say, our charitable purpose is to help those individuals to live a valued life. So we do far more than just provide basic care and support. We really work with individuals to help them realise their aspirations and their dreams.
And what kind of support is it that you are, obviously it's going to be completely different kind of support you're giving to, say, people living with disability to people coming back into society after being in prison. What are the range of support that you do give?
Yes, we offer a very personalised service. So there's a whole wide range of different types of support based on individual needs. But we have some care homes, some registered care homes. We do a lot of work which we call housing support, so providing 24-hour residential services to support people primarily with learning disabilities to live as independently as they can. We work in the community as well, so we visit people in their own home. And
Okay.
For example, for older people who may have dementia, we would be helping them up in the morning to get dressed and to shower and prompting them to take their medication, that sort of thing. The work that we do with offenders is a project called Positive Tracks, and we meet with people before they're released from prison, and then we support them to find accommodation, to help them to budget so they can pay their rent and not lose their home, help them with finding work, that type of thing.
Okay. And on top of all of that, you had another top position, as well as Chief Executive of Cornerstone. You were President of Aberdeen and Grampian Chamber of Commerce. Have you experienced any negativity at all being a woman in such high-profile roles, and how do you usually respond to it if you do?
I was very lucky to be asked to be the first female president of Aberdeen and Grampian Chamber of Commerce. So that was a huge honour. We chose at the time when I was appointed not to really make too much of a fuss about the fact that I was the first woman,
female. Okay.
because I wanted to be there on merit. I'm sure I was. And I know that lots of other women feel the same way. I haven't really received any obvious negativity or opposition to any of the positions that I've held. Often it's well-meaning advice that I'm sometimes given. So the intention is good, but sometimes it can come across as patronising. I do often and still get letters written to me as Mr. And indeed some cold phone calls. I think if your job title is CEO, people still sadly make the assumption that you must be a man. But no, I think times are definitely changing for the better, and I hope that we can stop reporting on when a woman is the first woman to do something.
Absolutely.
Particularly in the context of local business.
Well, thanks in part to your incredible work over the years. You were named Scottish Entrepreneur of the Year last year, and again, you don't want to have to say this, but you were the first female to be named so. What advice would you give to young women, starting out in their careers, particularly, as you say, in the business kind of world?
Yeah, that was another highlight last year, to be awarded the EY Entrepreneur of the Year for Scotland. And I enjoyed that experience very much, not just because I won, but the whole experience of being part of that process. I met so many interesting and fascinating people along the way. I'm often asked this question about what advice would you give? And this is very personal advice based on my own experience, and it may not be right for every other young woman. But I think the main advice I would give to someone is twofold. One is to give 100% to every job that you have, and to do something that you feel passionate about and gives you a sense of purpose. And the second thing is to grasp every opportunity that comes along. So there's a real issue, I think, for women and young women in particular around confidence. So have the confidence to put yourself out there. Don't worry that it looks like you might be showing off. Just, have the confidence to make sure people know who you are and what you can do. And if you are ambitious, that they know that you're really keen to get on at work. But take every opportunity that comes your way and grasp it with both hands.
And did you have a role model or someone who inspired you when you were coming up in your career?
I've worked with so many people, or come into contact throughout my life with so many amazing men and women, that this was a difficult question to answer, really. But I guess in terms of where I am today, the two people that would be my role models are the two patrons that we have at Cornerstone. Okay. One is Dame Anne Begg and the other's the Paralympian Karen Dark. And both these women, despite their disability, have achieved, amazing things in their careers, and in Karen's case, through sport. And if I'm ever having a bad day, or I'm thinking that something's challenging and I'm not quite sure how to get around a certain obstacle, then I think of Anne and I think of Karen, and they certainly inspire me.
Mm-hmm. Well, looking back on your career, I mean, what do you feel has been your biggest achievement to date?
I know we all love it when someone recognises us personally and something that we have achieved as an individual, but genuinely, I don't think I could have achieved the things that I have in my career if I hadn't been surrounded by some great people, and my current colleagues at Cornerstone in particular. So I think the greatest achievement, if I had to pick one, was a few years ago when Cornerstone won the Chairman's Award at the Care Accolades, and the Care Accolades were run by the regulators, the Scottish Social Services Council and the Care Inspectorate at the time. And we'd entered a number of categories for individual projects, and although we were shortlisted, we hadn't won anything. So we were feeling a little bit despondent at the end of the awards ceremony, politely clapping the others that had won, when the chairman announced that they wanted to give a special award to an organisation that goes above and beyond what is expected of them, and an organisation that is highly respected in Scotland in the care sector. And of course, Cornerstone's name was tripped off his tongue. So we were absolutely delighted, and that was a real recognition of the team that is Team Cornerstone. And I know someone has to be the CEO, but it absolutely isn't all down to me.
It's a team effort.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, finally, having received your honorary doctorate, which obviously I can imagine is another fantastic achievement for you, what are your future aspirations, both for yourself and for Cornerstone as an organisation?
Well, for Cornerstone, most importantly, we're in the middle of and going through some transformational change with the ambitious aim of transforming the social care sector in the UK. It's evident that the social care sector is in crisis and that something needs to change. So we've embarked on quite an ambitious journey to introduce a new model inspired by the work of Buurtzorg in the Netherlands. So we have introduced a new model called Local Cornerstone. Okay. And I'm sure we don't have time to go into too much detail on what that model is just now. But my vision, I guess, or our vision, is not only to ensure that Cornerstone is sustainable for the long term and can provide support and care to even more people, but that we can influence systems change within the sector so that everybody who needs social care in the UK benefits. So that's certainly forefront of my mind at the moment, and keeping me busy.
I can imagine. Well, Edel, thank you so much for coming in and for speaking with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and congratulations again on your honorary doctorate.
Thank you very much.
And that's it for another episode of RGU Talk. On behalf of the university, I've been Johnny Milne, and we'll talk to you later.